Today, most of us tend to take out, but the growing and marketing is really quite a complex business. It's all grown in equatorial countries, the great majority in Brazil. The trees bearing the fruit are cultivated and raised seed. The young seedlings must be kept in the shade, as the hot tropical sun will damage them when they're small. It takes 5 years to produce a fruit-bearing tree from seed, and great care is needed during this time to protect them from pests and diseases. There is no set harvest time throughout the world for coffee, as it matures at different rates according to the country. The fruit is picked when ripe, each berry containing 1 or 2 beans. The outside pulp has to be removed by washing, and the parchment-like skin surrounding the bean removed. The beans are dried in the sun before being sorted and graded ready for market. By far the largest consumer of coffee is the USA, which takes nearly 3/4 of the world's supply. In fact, coffee is the USA's largest single import. From the coffee plantations, the cargo ships bring some 40,000 tons of unroasted beans to the London docks every year. Before roasting, the beans can be handled the same as other types of cargo. No time is lost in unloading, which incidentally must be done in dry weather. Otherwise, the beans will be damaged. Nowadays, coffee is becoming more and more popular in England, although perhaps we don't attach as much importance to it as did the Turks in days gone by. In their marriage ceremony, the bridegroom used to promise that his wife, or wives if he was wealthy, should never be without adequate supplies of the bean. Rapidly, the bags are swung off the ships into the waiting lighters. The majority of coffee coming into England finds its way to the warehouses in the Pool of London, often here, to Hayes Wharf, one of the largest warehouses. Owing to the different growing conditions in various parts of the world, coffee is imported all the year round. Several different grades are amongst this cargo, and they must be sorted for marketing and grading prior to sale. Wholesale merchants have their own coffee tasters, and as soon as new consignments arrive at the docks, they must roast and taste samples from each lot. Time-honored methods are used in tasting. John Hart, seen here tasting his first of many daily cups of coffee, has been at this business for over 30 years. It looks simple, but it needs an experienced palate and an exceptional memory to spot the subtle differences between one variety and another. Crops vary from year to year, but blends must be as consistent as possible. The raw beans are also examined. Up to half a dozen types of beans are often used in one manufacturer's blend, and the taster must bear this in mind when going through the samples. Gradually he works down the line, separating good from indifferent, always considering how various qualities can be blended to make a good, saleable blend. Quite often, coffee is auctioned in Mincing Lane, and buyers from big firms as well as the small compete for the pick of the crop. Either they or their tasters have already sampled the lots, and bidding is fast. Although the large food organizations have extensive roasting and packing plants, there is also a keen demand for special blends for connoisseurs, both for ground and unground beans. This factory is typical of a modern and efficient plant capable of processing large quantities of beans every day. Let's see what happens to the raw beans. They are offloaded as soon as they arrive and put onto special carrier platforms, taken into the factory and stacked according to grade. Several different blends are roasted daily at this factory, then ground, packed and sent to customers within a few hours of the order being received. The beans are fed into a hopper at ground level, which sucks them into a large blending machine. As many as 14 bags are used in one blend, each bag containing approximately 130 pounds. The blending machine appears to turn slowly and do its work very leisurely, but it does in fact mix the beans very thoroughly. They are then fed into storage hoppers to await roasting. The temperature for roasting and the time the beans are in the roaster is of great importance. Many factors can alter the time required to roast the beans. An electronic device is set to time the roast exactly and maintain the temperature accurately for each succeeding roast. Testing of samples is frequently carried out, and here a special instrument measures the color of roasted beans, an accurate guide to quality. About 10 minutes is the usual time for a roast. The beans are then rapidly cooled and stored in hoppers until a particular blend is required for packing. Not until then are they ground and passed to packaging departments. Before the beans go to the grinding machines, orders for unground coffee beans are dealt with. These particular ones may be destined for your favorite restaurant. The grinder can be set to handle all types of blends, with the exception of espresso, which requires a very finely ground coffee and is done in a special machine. Once the coffee has been ground, it must not be allowed to come into contact with the air any more than is absolutely necessary. A special hoist transports the containers to the packaging machine, and in this way, the full aroma of the freshly roasted coffee is maintained. The senior taster always picks out a few packets off the production line and checks to make quite sure that they are up to standard. By the way, a taster must never swallow any of the coffee. He must just taste it in his mouth. The weighing machine can be set to weigh standard quantities accurately all day long. Rapidly the coffee is measured into bags and sealed up, ready for dispatch. And now, how about making coffee? It's really quite easy. The accent is on freshness. No, madam, you mustn't keep it this way. It should be bought in reasonable quantities, either freshly roasted or in airtight tins. Coffee is most susceptible to contamination by strong odors, for example, paints, onions and soap, so store it carefully. You may like to grind your own beans. Be sure they are fresh and your mill will grind them to the required consistency. Not too fine for jug making or percolator and not too coarse for paper filtration or espresso. Making good coffee means freshly boiling water in contact with the grounds for sufficient time for them to yield their goodness. Then removal of the water, which is now, of course, coffee. The espresso method requires water under steam pressure passing through finely ground coffee. Finely ground coffee yields its strength quickly when the water contact is short. Espresso is made with a dark roast and is quite different from milder types of coffee. In England, the coffee house has been revived largely through espresso coffee. At home, you may prefer the jug method. Pour freshly boiling water over ground coffee. Do use enough, 4 standard measures, 1½ ounces to the pint for full strength and aroma. Stir and allow to stand for 4 to 5 minutes, then pour out carefully. There are many filtering devices where boiling water is poured through the grounds, such as a popular German method where a paper filter holds the finely ground coffee and water is allowed to drip through into the lower vessel. So many ways to do the same thing, but they all come down to 2 simple methods. Either pouring water on and decanting off, or letting the water go through the grounds. As simple as that. Then there's the vacuum machine where water is boiled in the lower container, forced up and through the grounds, and then drawn back through them into the lower vessels. This machine is usually made of glass and is a popular wedding present. Again, we have the pumping percolator, where water is boiled and forced through the grounds continuously, going round and round until the desired strength is obtained. One must be careful not to over-circulate, because coffee boiled is coffee spoiled. Even the humble saucepan makes good coffee. Just boil the water, stir in the coffee and reduce the heat. Let it stand and pour out after 4 minutes. If you are pressed for time, then use a pre-brewed coffee such as the instant type. These just require the addition of near boiling water to turn the powder into a coffee drink. Whichever method you use, providing you follow these simple rules, you may be sure of always enjoying this refreshing and stimulating beverage, the cup of infinite pleasure, the golden fragrance of coffee.